Hi everyone, Kathy Beltran with Sacred Dance with Trance. I am, of course, super excited. You know, I always say that, but I am because I am doing the part 2 interview with Kai Meugge. Today, he's from Germany, a physical medium. If you have not seen part 1, check it out. You can see it in the groups, my personal page, or YouTube. Definitely check it out because he shares so much information about his journey and his development as a physical medium. So everyone, Kai Meugge.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. I am so grateful to you because I know you are very busy and our time zones are, you know, what are we, 5-6 hours ahead? But I'm grateful, and you're actually on vacation too. So I'm just, again, so grateful that you allowed to do the second part interview with us.
You're very much welcome, Kathy.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we have a lot of questions from the members. People are posting some questions, and we didn't finish last time, which was okay because I get to do a part 2 and get to see you and talk with you again and feel your energy, beautiful, beautiful energy. But first, before I do this, I want to talk about, Kai is actually a founding member of ASSMPI. I believe that's .org. And so definitely check out that website. Can you share a little bit about the work that you do with them, Kai?
Yeah, I mean, the ASSMPI is an organization that was founded at least 4 or 5 years ago. At least the first ideas about such a thing came up. The core member, or the core motivator, is the very well-known Scottish author and medium Jock Brokers. He lives actually in the States, and he has written several books. And his idea was, because physical mediumship specifically was something he was very interested in also. And he was looking for ways and forms how to bring physical mediumship closer to the people, beyond moments of doubt and moments of suspicion. And he wanted to found an organization that guarantees quality work within mediumship, but not only, of course, within physical mediumship. There we are too little, too few, too little group of people, but also, of course, in mental mediumship. So in the meantime, it has grown to a huge organization which is offering a lot of courses and trainings and journals. So there's a lot to find within. And yeah, and every medium who likes to do that or likes to have that can officially be tested by the ASSMPI. And so was I, of course, once tested in a very beautiful seance then we were holding in Florida, and Jock was coming up. And yeah, for the interested party, a lot to find.
Wow. And you know what? I'm actually glad you brought up Jock, because I'm actually going to interview him, hopefully very soon. So I'm looking very forward to that. But aren't you, I did read somewhere that you are actually one of the mediums that have been highly tested.
Yes,
wow.
absolutely.
How was the process for you?
Yeah, I mean, much more intensive was another process with an American team of investigators who actually tested us 3 years, and at the end we were invited for 8 days into a seance room laboratory, and over the 3 years we were admitting every control they wanted. And it was Professor Stephen Browdy who is very intimate with physical mediumship. And we succeeded over 3 years to deliver everything they wanted to have, under every control they wanted to have. And that actually climaxed then in the end during these 8 days, and we were enabled to produce different forms of ectoplasm after a physician's strip search before the seance and after the seance, strict holding during the seance. We were able to film the extrusion of ectoplasm. We were able to film the levitation of tables. Meanwhile, all hands were controlled. Then this, let's say, commission, basically it was Professor Browdy was writing a report, and during that 1 year a controversy was coming up about the first seances we were giving, and um, uh, photos that were shot within 20 seconds, and light phenomenon was showing up on these photos. And they started to discuss over that light phenomena, and there were people who claimed that could be an LED light that was used then. And this claim, even though we had proven over 3 years that we could work under the strictest control, was this claim basically corrupting the whole investigation. The reports were all written again, and the whole effort was basically in vain. But what we were showing, that controversy, what happened 10 years ago in that seance, nobody actually will be able to clear that up for the public. So it was unworthy to discuss that to that degree anyway. But what we could show was that we were able over 3 years to deliver all of our phenomena under the strictest control that Professor Browdy and co-professors who were working with him were wanting from us, and that still stands.
Wow. Amazing.
Yes, so that was Browdy, and then of course the investigation through JOG, and that was basically an investigation that was set up not by a scientist but by a medium. And that was interesting insofar that he, as a medium, was communicating telepathically with the present entities, or the entities that claimed to be present. And actually he was not only been given physical proof, but also proof in regards to his telepathic tests. So that was quite amazing. And of course, this single seance was as strict as you can imagine.
Okay. I know that the last time I asked you, you've done, I think it was like, you couldn't even count really how many seances you've done. And to be a sitter there must be absolutely amazing, to experience that energy, the phenomena that happens. I only get to see it by what I read, and then from people that have been there, that have told me, and it's like, wow, oh my goodness. I have so many questions as far as what the members have been asking. But first, I also want to talk about your, bring up your website, felixcircle.blogspot.com. You have to check it out. They're always updating what's happening, what's going on with them. And you'll see the latest images. And that brings me to one of my first questions is they wanted to ask more about the full materializations that you're experiencing. And I don't actually have the picture, but you guys, all you got to do is go to the website and check out the first interview, because it is posted in there as well. So they're really asking more about the experiences with full materialization.
Yes. It's not actually the last article, or is it the last? I don't know, but it's quite at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where we have published all the comments of the sitters who have been present at that seance when a famous spirit entity was materializing in a way and form that must have been so right out impressive. And yeah, if you go to the site, you will find the headlines within the article that the people were full of bliss and ecstasy, and were believing that they were confronted with something that is so unique and special, because that entity was actually floating in front of the cabinet, and there was a lot of time to actually look at it in bright red light, and it was exposing itself, revealing itself to the sitters with a very peaceful and majestic presence. And from behind, the trance control of me was speaking and was introducing this visitor as what he was. He was within spiritualism and within followers of the Theosophical Society, a very, very well-known name, John King, the father of Catty King. And maybe you have heard of Catty King before. That's that famous materialization, maybe the most famous materialization, having occurred 1874 in the laboratory of Nobel Prize winner William Crookes, when the English medium Florence Cook was repeatedly materializing the daughter of John King, Catty King. And that was a pseudo, actually, because John King was hiding his true personality behind the name John King. He was alleged, and probably he himself also claimed it, that he was the spirit of the famous buccaneer Henry Morgan. That's quite a wild story, but fact is that then over the upcoming decades, John King was repeatedly coming up in the seances of the biggest names in materialization mediumship. And last time I heard of him was when he was delivering messages to the famous American Sorat group that was in 2013 still active. And the name John King was falling in seances of ours before, but nobody was seeing anything. And then he came with an amazing power and presence. And you need to know, dear Kathy, because that is actually amazing. These spirits do materialize in different ways and forms. They do not only appear in red light, which is very satisfiable, of course, to watch and look at and observe, but they also come in peculiar different ways, which are described in the annals of spiritualism very well. For example, the first entity was, for example, the deceased daughter of guests who were in the seance room. And this first materialization 2 years ago now, there was in an absolutely darkened room, a fully illuminated little girl stepped in front of the cabinet. So there was no light source. The girl itself was shining, and what the most brightest shining area at her were her eyes. Her eyes were shining so brightly. I mean, I haven't seen it. I only have seen the drawings and have discussed with the sitters. But they said that they were feeling a Malmstrom-like power coming from these eyes, from these brightly lit eyes. Yes, so spirits that are shining out of themselves is a way and form they come. Or in darkened rooms, they bring an own light source. they have in hand, or one of the most impressive materialization was the materialization of El Moria, also a personality out of the philosophy of the Theosophical Society. And he was wearing a big blue diamond on
Wow.
his forehead. And that diamond was shining so bright and was tinting the room in an underwaterly blue. The whole room was shivering in blue. And yeah, you can read the reports and the many witness reports on our site, of course. And then we have one last, and we very well have observed all these different ways and forms how the spirits do appear. Um, Imagine it is dark, and with a flash of blue light somewhere in the room, suddenly the people see an entity stand.
Wow.
Then another flash, and the entity stands at another place in the room.
Wow.
And another flash, and the
Oh my
entity
goodness.
again stands in another place in the room. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. And mostly when that occurred, these entities were highly cloaked. That means it was not enough. That means there's not enough energy to show faces or show facial features or bodily features or hair or whatever. But even though they were so very much cloaked, um, for the sitters who experienced this, and I cannot express that as good as it is expressed by those who have on the last article on the blog described what went on in them, and some had to cry, and uh, some had words like suddenly like sacred in their mind and such things. So this experience is really powerful, and I need to tell you, I can so frank and freely talk about it because I always was not really believing that we were able to produce that. All many of our guests and many circle members, they were saying with that amount of ectoplasm and that control over ectoplasm that can be observed in red light, the building processes that can be observed in red light, they are so complex. The step to have a full form materialization is actually very, very small, very little. But I I know how spirits work, and spirits always like to walk existing paths. And at the moment, there are, at least publicly, no demonstrating physical mediums that are producing full form materializations. So for the spirits, there was no meme to link in, because to develop the faculty of full materialization is something that has also to be developed on spirit side. It is not so that every spirit is naturally able to materialize in the three-dimensional realm. Not at all. Of course, only those who have to do with the human realm, or uh, those spirits who accompany other spirits which have such a strong draw towards the human world, so they guide them and accompany them to the three-dimensional realm and help them to materialize. So I was always believing that that would be very, very difficult, but I didn't want to um, disappoint anybody. And of course, I didn't want to shut myself off to probable possibilities of the future. But when it appeared for the first time, it was totally unabated. For the couple that was there with their deceased daughter, it was totally unabated, and for the other sitters, of course, as well. And Yes, and then over the last 2 years, all these forms to appear um, stepped forward or developed, so to speak. And the last materialization was visible in a form. The materializations beforehand weren't visible. So that was also, you can look into the face of a strange man who was not in the room before and who looked so amazing. And that's quite great and exciting. And people come all over the world to, in the hope to see that and to witness that. So you are, of course, invited to come also if you.
Oh, I'm going to be there one day. One day I'm going to be there for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Um, oth- uh, Otherwise, we hope that we will be back in the States
Oh,
somewhere in the future.
that
Yeah,
will be wonderful too. So either I'm going there or you're coming this way and then I can travel. Oh,
I
I
will. I will let you know. That is promised, Kathy.
perfect.
So,
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
that is this thing with the full materializations, and that is actually quite amazing.
Oh my goodness. The photo that was posted and the one I shared in the first interview, just amazing photo. And reading the accounts of the sitters there. You guys have to check that out. You really have to check out the article. It was beautiful. You closing your eyes just or just reading that, you can imagine those. I mean, I already know I would be like, what? It would be amazing. And then to have a famous spirit entity show up as well. Um, it's just when I just can never get over that picture. It's just when I first saw it, I was like, what? But I'm really glad that you explained more about that. As you know, one of the members was like hounding me, please ask him more about that. So when you go and prepare yourself for your seances, what is that process? Do you just go sit down? You're so used to it that it takes a short time. What is your process?
In the first years when we started to publicly demonstrate, and people are always asking, why have you done that? You had that job with your Babylon TV and you was earning money, and why did you move yourself into this questionable area of mediumship and everything? And I mean, only a few of them were knowing that I was doing that all my life in the first place. And in the second place, we had developed in our Felix Circle bomb shelter cellar phenomena that were so massive that we were actually urged by the spirits. And they told us, we are not giving that to you for your cellar. You have to go out. You have to share that with the people, or at least you have to visit, to invite people. You have to share that. Otherwise, the amount of energy which is processed in these sittings is too big, too huge, that it is only for a group of all the time the same 10 people, you know. So when we started then to go out, and first contacts were established with interested parties, and we are never demonstrating publicly, by the way. We are always demonstrating semi-publicly. So we are going to friends about which we know they are highly in the topic, and they invite their friends then, you know. So, and at the beginning, I quite was involved in a stressful preparation activities. That means that I really, in, previously to every seance, I was believing I had to meditate at least 2 hours in the seance room. So
Wow.
I did not only had the travel stress, and the bringing up of the room stress with blacking out and everything, which is sometimes quite complicated. No, I additionally believed and at that time, at the beginning, it it was uh, it was necessary to that degree that what I wanted to demonstrate, and in connection with the fact that I was making myself unconscious in front of people I did not know. So there was a lot of preparation to be done in regards to trust and in regards to what for I am doing it. So 2 hours of meditation. So, but with the years, maybe 2 or 3 years, I did that. Um, and the schedule become narrower and narrower. And somewhen I said, no, I cannot. I need to go in the hotel and need to sleep and not to meditate. Yes. And what was, the seance was superb, like always.
Oh, that's
Like
good.
mostly always. The seances they are very rarely that we could describe them as really negative, but there are huge differences in energetic outcome in these seances. But I hadn't meditated, and the seance was really satisfiable, and more or less from that day on, I didn't meditate. I mean, I have a lot of meditative states when I'm at home, and when I am confronted, I am a bibliophilic. I am collecting books and reading books like an addict, and there are a lot of topics to contemplate about. So I'm regularly meditating, but not anymore. Previously to the seance. So, and then there is a second preparation process. Um, we are inducing with a very powerful breathing process the seance. But that breathing process that lasts up to 20-25 minutes, and we have experienced that that is too much for the sitters who mostly come from work or I don't know what, and to listen 20 minutes to somebody who sounds as if he is hyperventilating or like a huge locomotive sitting in his cabinet. Yes. So um, the breathing routine, which is called holotropic breathing of Stanislav Grof. It's a transpersonal psychology related breathing routine, and this is then be done already in the time when the sitters are being seated already, and when everything is right in the seance room. I'm coming in. Usually there is a strip search when we are at new venues, but when we are at venues where we have demonstrated 40, 50 times and we had 40, 50 strip searches already, and it is obvious that I'm not bringing anything into the seance room, we skipped that, because it is a disturbing or not disturbing, it's maybe too negative, but it's a process that it disturbs me in my preparation when you have to strip naked in front of somebody you actually don't know, and we do that strip search traditionally very careful. That means they look everywhere where something could be hidden behind the scrotum, or everywhere where between the I'm a big guy, yes, and you could maybe hide something under the belly or whatever. And so that is a very intimate process.
Yes.
And
Oh,
I don't like, and I like to skip it
oh,
when
I'm sure a
people
lot
are
of
fine
people,
with it.
yeah, nobody
Yes.
would want to actually have to do that, but
Yes, yes, you say it, you say it. Yeah, and um only shortly additional with that strip search, we are then going in that holding process, during the darkness phases of the seance. we are sitting actually with the sitters in the circle and are being held at least from one independent person who guarantees that I'm not getting up or reaching towards the paraphernalia which lays ready to show the spirit influence and the constituting of the spirit forms within the room. Yeah, so, but then when the sitters are seated and I have introduced that breathing process in my own room for 10-12 minutes, I'm ready to be brought into the seance room, and then Julia starts the recording, closes the room hermetically, and then the lights are being shut, and the singing begins. And we are traditionally using very special music at that moment in time. It is a strange mixture I had never heard before, but it so grabbed me between a form of sacral singing of Western, maybe more of Western form, like monks or something, but connected with an Indian influence. It's very, very beautiful. It's Lex von Someren, the crystal shaman. Lex von Someren has done a lot of very commercial things, but please listen into Crystal Shaman or the Crystal Shaman if you want to hear very extraordinarily interesting hypnotic tunes for the induction or the introduction of a seance. Yeah, and then the breathing routine is excuse me, I'm a smoker. And then the breathing routine goes on, and then the sitters already hear how the breathing changes into that very typical coarse breathing of that old or older guy. He calls himself Hans. We believe him to be a deceased professor of parapsychology in Germany, and he actually claims to be that to a certain degree. And he overtakes then, and I hear the first words. He is speaking through me. I am already retreated and detached from my own body, retreated in an inner or in an outer meditative room, so to speak, a visualized meditative room. And then over the many years, we have not only learned to deliver full automatic speaking, but also to detach from it so much that I actually sleep away. And my body, if you wish so, speaks by itself, actually under control of that member of the spirit team. Yes, we are working with.
Wow.
So that's the preparative parts.
That's a lot of process. Thank goodness that you no longer have to do the 2-hour meditation anymore.
Oh my God, yeah.
Excuse me. One of the things the members were asking is ectoplasm.
Oh yes.
There's such a debate on you can touch it, you can't touch it. How does it feel? You know, all those. Could you tell us a little bit about what you believe with that, or what you've experienced with it?
Of course, because ectoplasm is something really amazing. Not that it appeared over the decades in most different textures and looks, colors, densities, smells. Many times it showed, as it does in our seances, it showed the power of morphogenesis. So in red light, you can look at it and you can see how it lives and moves and how it builds forms. Most likely, it looks like embryonic forms that seem to build, but very, very clearly, again and again, hand forms. There lies a mass on the floor, and you have just observed the medium, how it was extruding it and bringing it out of its body, and then he has bitten it off, and it lies on the floor, a huge lump, a huge mass, and red light is shining onto it. And first you believe, am I seeing that rightly? Is that really moving? But very short.
That
Very
would be
shortly.
crazy to see, you know, and then
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We had several people who actually blanked out.
oh, oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, really, really.
Um,
Specifically those who said, okay, I am here today because I want to see ectoplasm for the first time.
mhm.
And then ectoplasm is showing up in the first minute and the sitter is blanking out. And later he told, yeah, I saw something like a baby in the ectoplasm. And that was too much for me.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. I question sometimes that if I get to observe something like that, would that happen to me? Would I just be so like, oh my God, and then pass out? But oh my God, so wonderful.
Yeah, so it appears in these many textures and the highest forms. Um, we talked about the full materializations, but there are pre-stages after the hand forms and the embryonic forms. Torsos and heads and faces of the deceased appear in the ectoplasm. You need to imagine at a certain point in time, an additional lump of ectoplasm is produced that on the floor starts to disintegrate and disappears and is allegedly, at least partially, getting back into the medium's body or getting back into the bodies of the sitters that have provided also into the process. And there is another lump of ectoplasm being produced from the medium's head's orifices, and that lump lays on the chest of the medium, and Julia is the first who starts to check my wife with the red lights. And those who sit close, of course, can also already see. And then she detects when it starts. And then the people come, and sometimes this is what the people have observed and claimed, that with the different people who are called to come close to the cabinet and see if there are visitors coming also for them, it was observed that for every sitter at another location in that mass, suddenly the mass changes and that starts to become like liquid, and suddenly most lifelike faces appear in the ectoplasm. It is as if somebody had, as if you would look at pictures in an album. Yes, but when you carry on to observe, you can observe how they melt away then.
Wow.
And another sitter comes and another face comes up. And we have photographed these faces. You can look at these faces on our blog if you like to. It's actually amazing. And when you see how they are embedded in the mass, you can easily imagine how they pop up, come up, and go again and go again. And now I must do something my wife will judge me for, because she always wants that I give a good example, but I light a cigarette now.
You are totally fine.
Yeah.
It is
Julia,
amazing.
forgive
I
me.
mean, so I definitely want to, I'm going to add a link to that music, the shaman.
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to add a link in the when I release the video so others can hear it, and definitely have everybody check out the website because there's so much information there that you've posted, and we're talking about the photos, the things that have your experience. So you can definitely just check out the website to see those things as well.
And very important, of course, not only about our development, but um, thoroughly thorough articles about the history of physical mediumship. And by the way, I haven't fully answered your question because you was asking, can ectoplasm be touched? Actually, because it was just claimed that ectoplasm can even not be touched by the medium who is producing it. I don't know who is claiming such things. I know who is claiming such things, but I won't say. But all what we know from history is not supporting that. We have a lot of photos where we see not only the medium, but also the sitters touch the ectoplasm. And this is what we experience from our seances as well. The entities stands up many times. The entity within me stands with my body up many times and takes a lump from that ectoplasm that lays on the floor and transports it to the sitters who sit in the circle. Light is on, and let's let them feel it. And these palpable impressions were as varied as the visual impressions in regard to ectoplasm. So some felt sometimes it is experienced dry, rough, stiff, but then it is like thready, wet, full of liquid of some sort, dripping, ice cold, warm. So all these different impressions, and it's hard to find an objective middle here. You know, ectoplasm, I believe ectoplasm will stay, will stay so mysterious and unapproachable as it is, because ectoplasm is the right out face of these occult forces we are working with. And actually, I believe through the melting of these two worlds which are interacting here, a new form of matter actually is being able to produce. And it can be produced from the medium's body, but it can also be produced from the sitter's bodies. But sometimes it is simply in the room, and it is not so clear if that is now coming from a sitter or from the medium. So fact is that that new form of matter has characteristics of both worlds which are dealing with it. It has the palpability and the physical presence of something physical from our world, let's say, but it is a highly sensitive reaction field, you can say, because it is that mass that turns into the hands of the deceased that in the end come close to you and caress you, because there is a deceased entity who grabs the momentum and materializes, maybe only the hand, and touches you because you're a relative or a loved friend or a former partner or whatever. So we have something that has characteristics of a matter from the three-dimensional realm, but it reacts on informational or spiritual impulses, so to speak. Then it starts and builds alongside these things, and in the end, whole figures can appear from it. The full materialization.
Wow. When you said that the ectoplasm can come from the sitters. So this is, you don't know what sitters, it's just coming. They have no idea that that's happening to them, or do they? I mean.
Mostly it's the case that sitters who already had before the seance anyhow a connection to physical mediumship, maybe had their own experiments or have an own group or something like that. So their spirit team oftentimes already has prepared a probable taking part in the processes, because again and again we experience that from very sensitive sitters who oftentimes are mediums themselves. This draw of energy is very strongly felt, but not in a negative manner. Very quickly the body is weighing it out. But Kathy, imagine on the opposite side of the circle, opposite to where I am being held, there is what we are calling a focus table, where all these different objects are placed upon. And when objects are affected very far away from me, for example, are the sitters enabled to see hand forms develop in front of a glowing tile in the dark, early stages of the seance. These hands do not disappear or vanish in the direction or into the direction of the medium. They do clearly disappear into the direction of the closest sitting sitters. And that gives us a hint that when phenomena are happening so far away from the medium, it is still controlled by the medium's spirit team, but needed forms of ectoplasmic matter are maybe also taken from the sitters as well who sit close.
Wow, so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That also brings me to something else that I want to talk about. There are a lot of videos. There are a lot of videos on YouTube about apports and where they're coming out of you. I know we talked about it coming out of your eyes. And the type of apports that come through, are they always highly valuable, apports, or is it just basic things that are coming through?
The Apport phenomena is accompanying us from the start, and very well known we became for the suddenly appearing wax balls. They were falling from the ceiling or were seemingly being thrown from outside the circle into the circle. And when we opened them inside the wax balls, there were written messages, very small pieces of paper, partially in an amazingly tiny writing. And there were spectacular writings in so far because we let make expertises about are they really the signature of this personality or that personality. And several times we could prove that a deceased entity obviously had left a written message. So with the time, and that is from the beginning that way the case in this mediumship, that there's always a huge dynamic of development and change, and phenomena start to retreat, meanwhile other phenomena move more forward. But also, of course, always dependent on the dynamic in the seance room as well. So today, when we look back over the last 7 or 8 years, I believe it is fair to say that through this spirit team and through this mediumship, actually there were thousands of objects materialized. And of course, these thousands of objects were not always of a material value. In the contrary, spirits are like more to be understood, as I have just written it in a former Facebook post, as an antimatter of materialistic value. You know, all what the songs and the messages in the songs, the global messages from the spirits is about, is actually a turning away from the control money has over us, and turning away from the damage, and make it better, of course, in the future, from the damage that money has caused. So we are several times, or more or less regularly, we are addressed by people who say, if these spirits were real, then they would produce highly valuable materials or highly valuable gemstones. I can assure you that that would not be the case, and is not the case. These, what they are giving us is oftentimes simply a spontaneous expression of their joy, and this is channeled into color and form. And these objects are sometimes mimicking gemstones because it simply pleases our eyes. And these objects, and they are not only gemstones, it is so much more. These are figurines and jewelry. I just have posted today on Facebook a few impressions, because it is uncountable. Christian symbols, and again, in between these thousands of objects, the spirit team showed its ability to actually produce valuable material. So gold was produced, silver was produced, real gemstones were produced, very beautiful ancient jewelry was produced. So, but this is an exception then, because spirits know how very much we humans are conditionalized, and the spiritual message would step back behind a monetary value. Imagine these thousands of gemstones, or let's say if it were only 100 of gemstones, but they are being given to the people. You know how quickly the people would look. Oh, look how many gemstones. Why has he 3 gemstones and I have only 1? And how much worth are his gemstones, and how much value has mine? So it
I'm
was
sure that would go crazy, with
absolutely
questioning. But when you said that they had handwritten notes in clay and dropping in, to me, the message or whatever is written would be valuable, would be like, just to open one up and read it, that would be like the gift. It doesn't have to be some extraordinary thing. It could be something so beautiful and simple.
Absolutely. And they materialize, most of these objects, in red light directly in front of the eyes. Mostly the sitters are always only one who is given the artifact, then is asked to come to sit directly in front of the medium, and he's then allowed to check the hand and the arm of the medium, and that it is empty, that there is nothing into it, and then the medium holds its hand up, and the sitter puts his or her hands directly below it, and from that empty hand these objects then appear, or they appear in midst of a red light speech, and suddenly the mouth fills up with objects, and not only the mouth, the eyes, the ears, the nose, and the objects are then being retrieved. Or out of huge light explosions, huge objects fall out of light dischargings that happen in front of the chest of the medium, and huge, up to 550-gram heavy artifacts fall from these. So when I hear me telling all that, I need to absolutely underline that I am the last one who has something to do with that, actually. Rudi Schneider, in whose tradition I am doing that, was always saying, I am sleeping while you have the fun, and that is actually the case. I am sleeping, and all who are in charge here is the spirit team. I cannot produce nothing from my hands. That must be very, very clear. When I'm telling that, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the processes inside of the seance room. That is very, very necessary. Would I start to associate that with my person, spirit would take it away from me. It must be very, very clear that that is something that happens when people come together and summon the spirits, and the medium is only a catalysator to have the processes go.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, just to be there to experience or to see these apports come out, you know, of all the orifices, just to drop out, I'd be like, oh my God. So I'm just to see the photos too. It's beautiful. I just can't. It looks painful when it's coming out of your eye, and then you guys are gonna have to check out the video on YouTube because you'll see that right away. But it doesn't hurt you at all.
No, because I'm not there.
You're not there.
I am sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sleeping, and you know, when I sleep away in the first minutes after the personality has taken over, I sleep away and wake up right after, and 2 hours have gone, so there's actually lost time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not there when that happens. And we know something else. When spirits manipulate the body that way, and I mean, they always talk about that the body is a portal itself for interdimensional interaction, let's say. And everybody who has experienced sacred ceremonies in which sacred plans are being used or something like that knows how very much that is true, how very much the body can be used as an interdimensional portal or vehicle, however you would like to call it. And I like the metaphor, the analogy so much when they tell at the eyes where there is the borderline, because you always say behind the eyes there is the soul, the realm of the soul, and exactly at that borderline they are delivering their joy to us and filling up suddenly the eyelids with that huge amount of objects and bring them forward. When they are then given to the sitters, these objects turn into something very important in regards to the overall message of the spirits, and that has to do with the saving of the world and the achievement of what we are calling the paradigm shift. Mm-hmm. These Um, when these objects are then given into the possession of the sitters, they fulfill different meanings, so to speak. On the one hand side, it's an appreciation of the spirit world in regards to your involvement in lightful processes like a seance is, and most of the people that come to us are themselves somehow engaged in on a spiritual path or in a spiritual activity that helps to other people, helps other people, or at least helps this. The spirits always talk about an informational field that has to be filled up, and one day the informational density within that field will be so high that this field is shifting over into something new, and everything what we do and say and are is contributing to this field. And when we do and say and are the right thing, then we will push that field towards something we might like to call a paradigm shift. And then these objects play an important role. Not without reason, they are called activation stones. And that's so beautiful that the people are not only given these objects, but they are given these activation objects or activation stones. They are connected with something that shall be done. And this shall be done is exactly what I just was talking about. The spirits want that we rebuild our thinking, our speaking, and our behaving into something that is 100% creational. They always say, be with every iota of yourself a fully creational being. That means all the decisions you can make over the day, where you have to, or where you can decide between a path that is empowering, creational, strengthening the inner processes. Maybe it's a longer path, but the benefit will be greater. Or you choose the quick path where you make quick and fast benefits, um, uh, calculating the harm or the depletion of resources or of others. So, and they say everything what you are has to be built into something on that creational side. And these stones we are giving to you remind you of the way you already have gone, the path that lies still in front of you. And of course, it reminds you that it has to be activated by your own involvement, active involvement in the future. And so these stones are binding the people into a contract, so to speak, yes, to be beneficial towards a lightful behavior and working towards the achievement of a paradigm shift.
You know, I'm really glad you brought up the paradigm shift, because that was one of the questions, because of members asking if you could explain that more. But I love that you describe or call it activation stones. And the way and what it means is very beautiful. And I like how you said, put all your energy into being. Because you could like think about 20 different things. Oh, I want this. I want to become this. I want to be this better. But if you're just in all those different directions and your thoughts are all over the place instead of just one place, creating intentionally and manifesting that. I'm so glad you brought this up, because I do believe people need to evolve and grow and define their ideas and their mission.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. I mean, that is actually the meaning of life. The meaning, after we have understood how very much we are interconnected and how very much our being, not only our deeds and actions, simply alone our being, how very much that does already influence an environment that is vaster than we can oversee. Yes. So when we have understood how destructive we can be, for the spirit entities, it was clear, because they believed us to be moral entities, that that understanding would give us the meaning of life, to say, in my life, I will do everything, therefore, that I rebuild myself into something that is only contending out of creational power. And so that my contribution to that, to my universal or multiversal integrity, is truly beneficial for all what is. And and they are promoting that further on, and they say we are at the moment, because of the informational society, never before the world was connected so very much. And the spirits say that now it's the time, and all of you who have benefited so much from all what is around you, it's time to give back now. And we regard you as an elite because you are here, and we regard you as an elite, they say, because we know that you can feel that it is time to give back. And the most wonderful thing is, through our connections, we actually sit not only for mediums and for esoterics, we are also sitting, interestingly, through a very special connection we have for highly ranked managers, for example, of the German industry. And they feel addressed. I never had imagined that they would come to seances, but that was actually managed, and they come, and they cannot get enough. I can tell you, they cannot get enough, and they accept what is placed into their hands from the spirits, And additionally, the spirits say, what they make in my seance room is as valuable as what you does, dear Kathy, in your interview room. And that we are all here together on that lightful side, and try to help that the human being and this earth will survive.
You made that sound very beautiful. I'm sitting here going, wow, that is so beautiful. Everybody's connected. Even, the work that you're doing, it's just, there's a connection. And while you were talking, I was thinking about how, when I first started to do the interviews, I wanted to do it to help others. And the people that are coming forward, it's so easy. And the ones that do step forward are meant to be heard. And what it is, it's sharing the word from spirit, what they're trying to bring forward. And it's really love. It's really healing. And that's it. So being a representative of the spirit world, I'm just lucky that I get to talk to all the beautiful people that I've interviewed, and share their light, the things that they're doing for the spirit world. So I'm grateful. I'm just like, this is like the best day ever for me. This is like a great Christmas present here, talking with you and learning so much from you. So
thank you.
Oh my goodness. Now, I know I wasn't supposed to keep you on too long, but I already know that I've got you for an hour. So I actually have one more question for you.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you, we have a lot of members that are new, that are starting to learn about physical mediumship. They want to sit to
Mhm.
develop or sit for trance. Is there any advice that you can give somebody learning? What do they need to do in order to sit?
Yeah, we are actually have a whole module in our workshops that is about that, uh, bringing up of an own experimental group,
Mhm.
because there are so many traps in which the people can fall into. Let me think what could be a good basic um, contribution for those who would like to build up. Do not over focus onto the phenomena. Give the group time and give the phenomena time. Um, Call the spirits, and I mean actually call the spirits. Speak them out. Speak their names out, and speak the invitation out. Do not try to bring such a group up without having read at least 20 to 25 books at least about that topic. Um, it is a little bit like driving a car. You first should absolutely make your license, otherwise there are dangers lurking on the streets. So it's important you have made your license, so to speak, and that is information you have gathered out of books, professional books, classical books, books which are well known, which you can learn about and how they are called when you start to inform yourself what has that to do with me. Important is also that you do not try, and this is only a recommendation, but it has important implications. When you are a German, do not try to take over the tradition of Northern American Indians, for example, because you do not have the socio-cultural connection, and even in your genes, you are differently programmed. Find your own culture's way to converse with the spirits, and then open your own channel, so to speak. And that could be the most promising way to have results. Um, the group should not be, in the beginning, a good number is between 5 and 7 people that should be in the group. These people should be as knowledgeable as you. So they should also have read a lot, like you, who you like to erect such a group. Everybody who is attending should have a knowledge about uh, uh, different dimensional concepts, holographic universe, life after death, all a good metaphysical knowledge. Everybody should have. Regularity is a point. So meet very regularly. You do not need to exaggerate it. Once a week, when you say twice a week, a lot of people will start to have problem with this because they have family and whatever. When you achieve to meet once a week, but really disciplined, really the same day, the same time, that would be good. And Yeah, I mean, these are some.
No, it's beautiful. Wonderful advice to give. And
Yeah.
um it is true. I do think that you have to be well-rounded. You have to have knowledge to have the understanding, learn as much as you can.
Oh,
Spiritually, you know?
one important thing. When you have a psychiatric history,
Mhm.
you are unfortunately not predestined to become part of the group.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
That is, I absolutely agree with you on that. Yes,
yeah.
it's true. Okay. Kai, this has been a fabulous interview. Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you so much.
I always love talking with you because I'll sit here and I'll forget about the questions because I'm just sitting here listening and it's like fabulous. Um, thank you very much for doing this part two.
Thank you
Every
too. Thank you
oh,
too.
again, what was it? I wanted to bring up. Check out the YouTube videos. Check out the Apports that are coming out of Kai on YouTube. Check that out. Go to felixcircle.blogspot.com. All the information, everything that we talk about is there as well. I will post the link for the music that he was talking about, the shaman,
Mhm.
the crystal shaman. I will definitely post that so you can understand what he listens to. Um, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I wish you the
Thank you
best
too. Thank you.
holiday. Okay.
You too. Thank you too, dear Kathy. Yeah, all the best. All the best.
You
And
too. And
and remember to visit us when you
oh,
are somewhere in Europe. And I let you know when we come back into the States.
okay. Please, please do. And I can't wait to be at one of your seances. One day I will be there for sure.
For sure, for sure.
All right,
So
Kai. Thank you. You have a wonderful rest of your evening and happy holidays to you.
thank you. You too. Bye
Thank
bye, dear
you.
Kathy. Bye bye.